In the name of Amen, the Supreme, the All-Powerful, the one and only true Lord, and Amen we trust as the Republic of Mentellect, the true 144,000 that's being gathered in this day and time, the Mentellians. Mendeka Aminun to all of my Mentellian brothers and sisters out there, registered members of the Republic of Mentellect, and to all future Mentellians who have yet to find their way home to the Republic of Mentellect, which is Amen's covenant. I send greetings out to you, and I send peace out to you in our Mentellian language by saying to you, Mendeka Aminun. Good evening, I am your host, the intellectual Nuben Menkares. This is Mentellect Radio, and tonight we're going to be discussing the power of change. Change, whether we are guiding the change, whether we are being led by the change of somebody else, change is inevitable. Change is inevitable. So we might as well make ourselves the pilots or the engineers of change. We might as well put ourselves in the steering seat of change. Because again, if we're not changing our lives, somebody's going to change our lives for us. And this has been happening with black people since we came in contact with other people. We've been mesmerized by change because black people, so-called black people, have been known to be a people of custom, tradition, things of that nature, and they don't think that change is inevitable. When you get caught up in customs and traditions and things like that, religions, philosophies, rituals, all these things, you start to really believe that these things are not going to change, or that times and people are not going to change, that situations are not going to change. You start to really believe that. You fall for that. You think things are going to remain the same, and that has been the problem with so-called black people. That has been our biggest problem, aside from not thinking, which again is also part of change, because thinking is continuous and constant change. And we already know the mass majority of black people don't want to think. They rather believe in things. They rather believe that things are going to stay the same, things are going to get better over time, whatever. They rather believe than think. They would rather things remain the same than change. But again, that's not the reality. The reality is that change is always inevitable. I had a guy come on my page, right, talking about, I like what Newton be saying and things like that, and I like that sound good, but ain't nothing changing, ain't nobody evolving, ain't nothing growing, things gonna be the way they is. I'm like, that's for you, nigga. that's your reality. That's your reality, Negro. You trying to make that everybody else's reality. But unfortunately, this is the reality of a lot of black people. This is the reality of a lot of people in general. The mass majority of people, black, white, and everything in between, they don't think that change is possible, nor do they understand that change is inevitable. So what happens is they allow changes to manipulate their life. People who have taken the driver's seat and the direction and the engineering of change, the people who have stepped up in the front to engineer the change, to basically steer a ship that needs to be steered, to guide a car that needs to be guided, whatever, something that's going to happen anyway. These people stand up and they put their hands on the steering wheel and they direct or help the change along. And unfortunately, our people don't like to do that. So-called black people. I'm not going to say our people no more. They don't like to see that. By this person saying, "Oh, ain't nothing going to change, and there ain't nothing, da. Well, at one point in time, our people were the greatest people on the planet. We were in power. We had the first government set up, and the so-called white man was in caves, and all these other races was in caves, right, and crawling around on all fours. Now you see them in power and our people at the lowest point. So what does that tell you? That change is inevitable. The only thing is they took their hands and they allowed themselves to steer the ship of change. They let themselves steer the vessel of change. They let themselves be the vessels of change. And black people kept on thinking, oh, ain't nothing going to happen, whatever. We're going to still be with our old customs and traditions and whatever the case may be and our, culture, whatever, black people thought. Things that over time don't mean anything. You have to constantly be evolving and growing, right, each day, because that's reality. Change is inevitable. Either you're going to be proactive in changing your life for the better, or somebody else is going to take the initiative and change your life for you. And I guarantee you're not going to like the change. You're not going to like the change. Black people have sat by and allowed other people to change their lives for them, for the worse. For the worse. They've sat by and allowed other people to do their thinking for them and change their lives. You understand? And again, if black people sit up here and wonder why things have not changed with our people, it's because they really don't want to change. I want you to get this through your mind and understand this. Black people do not want things to change. They talk a good one. But they do not want things to change in their condition. And your so-called whites and their relationship to black people, they don't want things to change. They really don't want things to change in relation to black people. You understand that? They don't want things to change. They like the way the dynamic is. You understand? Now, you got certain people who do want change and who are actively trying to make change in their life. You got certain people like that. You got certain people who are proactive in change, but they're not going to be black people. I said this before, that because black people do not really want change, they will not be proactive in the change. They will not be proactive in the evolution. You understand? They will continuously move in a revolution, meaning in a circle to nowhere, where no changes are being made. They're going to keep arguing with the white man, keep talking about why they ain't got this, talk about police brutality, never taking steps to make changes, never putting their hands on the steering wheel to make change, to steer the vessel toward change. They don't think that, they don't never think any change is possible. So if you don't think change is possible, like that individual that came on my page talking the nonsense, I'm like, why are you even listening to me when all I talk about is evolution and change? Why are you listening to my broadcast then? What is the point? I said, just go somewhere, sit in the corner, and just wait to die. Hell, even when people talk about that, like I said, you start from a child, you grow into a man or a woman, and then you get old, or you get older, and eventually you pass on. Is that not change? Is that not change? So change is reality. It's all about what you want to change in your life. And the people who have accomplished nothing in their lives, who have done nothing in their lives, they really did not want things to change in their lives, because change is a big thing. Change is a big responsibility. Change is a big responsibility. A lot of people don't want that responsibility. They want something to be handed to them. They want something to be given to them. And even if you hand it to them and give it to them, they're still not going to appreciate it, because deep down inside, they don't want things to change. They don't want to change. When I thought about Iyanla Vanzant, those of you might know her, she's on the, I always bring up her story, and I said to myself, I don't know why Oprah Winfrey does not, since she got her own network, she need to do a movie on the life of Iyanla Vanzant. Get a young actress to play a Oprah Winfrey movie where she can get, Iyanla Vanzant to play her. I mean, not play her, excuse me, get somebody to play Iyanla Vanzant. She can get a young woman to play Iyanla Vanzant. You understand that? But she would rather make stories, and a lot of these so-called black people would rather make stories about people who are constantly going through the same struggles over and over and over again. They'd rather make slave movies, they'd rather make civil rights movies about things that don't change anything. They don't want to take because a lot of our people A lot of our bright people have made strides and changes in their lives and have touched the lives of many. But you're not going to see movies like that. Because, like I said, deep down inside, black people don't want things to change. Just like on the plantation, you think you had a lot of black people, and I said this before, and I'm gonna say it again, and I'm gonna reiterate this. People got on Kanye West when he said what he said about slavery being a choice. It was a choice. And I'm gonna say it again. It was a choice. Black people didn't have to stay on no plantation. They didn't have to. I mean, people gonna always try to put up a fight to keep you someplace. But again, at the end of the day, if you really want to go, you can leave. Black people didn't want to leave because they really didn't want to change, because leaving and going into a whole nother place, being free, that was unthinkable to them. That was unthinkable to them. To actually, a lot of black people who stayed there, because you got a lot of black people that left. They was ready to just take their chances. But for a lot of black people, they would rather stay in one place and die slowly, rather than to launch out on your own and take your chances. They rather stay in one place and die slowly. No matter how bad they being treated, no matter how much they being abused, they rather stay in one place and die slowly rather than take a chance. And that was the reality of a lot of them black people who was on them damn plantations. They just don't want to say it. They want to make you believe, oh, they would have went if the white man told them to leave. They would have left if the white man told them. No, they didn't, because it was stories and accounts of when the white man came after they lost the war, and the white man said, you free, go ahead, get up out of here, y'all ain't my slave no more. They like looking at the white man like they ain't even want to go. They ain't even want, a lot of them didn't even want to go. They like, where we going to go? Some of them stayed there and became sharecroppers. They still stayed up under the white man, still in the sharecropping shacks and whatnot, because they didn't want to strike out on their own. They didn't want to take chances on their own. And change is all about chances. Change in your life is all about chances. It's about taking chances. Getting out there and maybe failing until you succeed, taking that chance. Again, Iyanla Levon's aunt, I give her a lot of credit, because when she's from Brooklyn, out here in New York, New York, and Iyanla Levon's aunt was a straight up Brownsville, Crown Heights, baby mama smut, project smut, baby mama everything, thought. She was the original 1970s thought, smut, baby mama, all that. And she'll tell you, she was honest about it. I ain't insulting her. She'd be real about it. Ratchet, right? Then she wanted to change her life. She telling her, now she got shook or change my life or whatever. She changed her life. She said she was on the bus one day, and she heard somebody say, yeah, they need to kill all these welfare mothers and things out here in the 70s. They need to kill all these welfare mothers and stuff. She remember the bus she was on and everything in Brooklyn. They need to kill these welfare people. They don't kill all these women that's on welfare, collected from the system. And she thought to herself, I don't want to get killed for being on the system, because she was getting welfare. Next thing you know, she enrolled in college, right? She enrolled in college, Medgar Evers. 4 years, got her pre-law degree, and then went to John Jay and got her law degree. Went to John Jay and got her law degree, became a lawyer. A hood chick became a lawyer. And you got stories like that. Right? She with 4 kids, 3 or 4 children, a project thought, you know what I'm saying? Out there like that, changed her life. Because she wanted to change her name and everything. Just wanted to change. Sometimes people get tired of situations being the same way they are, and they really want to change. And they embrace that. And like I said, she was one of those people. You understand that? But you got to want things to change, and you got to be proactive in that. Black people want things to change, but then they're not proactive in it, which really means you don't want nothing to change. Because change is not just sitting around talking about it. Change is being about it. Change is being about it. I wanted things to change for my people. I wanted things to change. You understand? I wanted things to change, and Amin presented this path to me. Amin made himself, I'm saying him, but the Amin beings made themselves, they presented themselves to me through change, because I wanted change for myself and for my people. I just didn't know the people they were talking about. I was thinking about it at the time, And I knew that change was not going to include all black people. I came to that conclusion. But I wanted change. The thought was there because I didn't like to see the conditions my people was in. I didn't like to see the mindset that they were in. I didn't like it. And because I didn't like that, Amun presented that change to me through intellect. Amun gave me the open door through intellect because you have to be dissatisfied. You have to be dissatisfied in order for change to present itself. In order for Amun to present change to you, you have to be dissatisfied. I was dissatisfied. I hated everything around me. I hated the condition of black people. I hated being black. You understand? I hated, when I say I hated being black, that whole terminology, that mindset that went with it, the mindset that black people had, that they was thinking that, oh, if you want to take care of yourself, if you want better out of life, if you want to come together collectively, then that's not being black. You know, that black people are supposed to have bad health. Black people are supposed to not care about working out and exercise, and black people are supposed to eat bad food. Black people are supposed to, and I done had black people tell me, oh, you ain't black because you don't want to you don't want to eat this kind of nasty ass food, or you don't have this slave mindset. You want more, so you ain't black. I said, well then, goddamn it, I guess I'm not black then. I guess I'm not black. You understand? I had my own father tell me some off-the-wall stuff like that. And I'm being real. My father said something like, I don't know, his mind was at the time. I said, he seen me running and working out. He said, what you trying to be, white? Oh, because I want to eat better and I want to be in shape. I'm trying to be white. I remember my own father said that. You understand? I'm supposed to be somewhere, overweight, somewhere fat and nasty, and overweight somewhere waiting to die. That's what I'm supposed to do. When I talked about making film, my own father said, that ain't nothing realistic for a black man to think about. I said, really? Who says? But many of our people have thought through the minds of things not changing, right? Because they looking through the eyes of white people who don't want nothing to change. That's really what they looking through the eyes of. And, they look through the eyes of white people because white people want things to remain the same. A lot of them want things to remain the same. A lot of them want the paradigm of them on top and everybody else on the bottom to remain the same. So you start to fall into that mindset just like that as well. A lot of our own people start to fall into that mindset. And they start to, define their existence around the limitations that white people put on them. They start to define their existence around that. Because, again, like I said, a lot of our people think the so-called white man is God. They don't want to say it or admit it, but they do. Like I said, come right back to that Ben X thing when he was sitting up here crying about why Netflix didn't want to air Minister Farrakhan on Netflix, why they didn't want to put his speech on Netflix. And I said, well, you come from a man who talked all about do for self and was all about change down with Elijah Muhammad. So how are y'all coming up, after Elijah Muhammad, and y'all don't own your own Netflix streaming thing? How does the Nation of Islam, since they want to stream Minister Farrakhan's speeches, how come the Nation of Islam don't own a server? How come the Nation of Islam don't own a movie streaming site? How come they don't own these things? If you're the successor to Elijah Muhammad, how is it that you asking on some civil rights backwards mentality mindset, oh, can you stream our thing for us? Can you do for us? That's an Uncle Tom mentality. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was trying to clean our people up from having that. You understand? But that's the mindset of people who really don't want to see change because they don't think it's possible. You got a lot of people who walking by you and pretending like they on your team and pretending as though they for you, because for you means that you want better for me, and the only way you can ever want better for me is that you want me to evolve and to change and to grow into a supreme person, and I should want the same thing for you. But you got many people who are not really thinking like that, who playing like they thinking like that, and they always reveal themselves over time. They'll always, when you're trying to do something more with yourself, they'll try to sabotage it. You understand? They'll say little things because they don't see change happening for them, so they don't want to see it happen for you. You got to be mindful of these people. Like I said, a lot of you all, you set yourselves up. You set yourselves up not to change, not to grow, and to evolve. And again, that's when you do that, you're working against nature. You're working against the natural the natural reality of who you are. You working against that. The natural reality of who we are is that evolutionary people, that people have changed. That's who we are. That's who we are. We're supposed to be changing. We're supposed to be evolving. We're supposed to be growing. But again, we can't depend on a lot of our people to be of that mindset. You can't. You can't depend on a lot of the people to be of that mindset. A lot of people don't want to see change happen. Change is the most natural thing in the world. And because we didn't change our minds, time stood still for the so-called black race. Time stood still because they didn't change their minds. They didn't change their minds. So time stood still. When you don't change your mind, time stands still. Nothing happens for you. You understand? Nothing happens for you when you do nothing, when you don't want change. So when you see this many black people still sitting up here crying and moaning about white supremacy and all this, they don't be fooled by these people. Don't be fooled by these people. They don't want nothing to change because, again, if these things stop happening, then they got to find something else to talk about. They got to find something else to talk about. This has become the platform for a lot of people. Police brutality, racism, and things like that. And instead of making platforms to change these things, they would rather wallow in these things so that they could continuously have these things to talk about because they're limited in their way of thinking. They're they're problem-driven people. They work off of problems, never solution-based people. Very problematic. And the only way solutions come is by change, by wanting change, by being open to receive the answer for change. For evolution. Evolution is change. Change is evolution. Growth. And you don't have to change people's minds for things to change. Because, again, black people are under this impression that, the only way things are going to change is if white people change their minds about how they see us. You got a lot of these dear white people, Negroes, who up here got this, the only way things are going to change is if the white man changes the way he see us. Get away from them. That's a coon Sambo mentality. And, again, that's the mass majority of you black people out here. That's the mass majority, and they're always going to show themselves. They always going to show themselves. The only way things going to change is if they start thinking, if they start changing their mind about us, if they start loving us as people, that's when things going to change. Get away from those people. Get away from them. A lot of black people are like that. A lot of them are like that. Get away from them. True change is supposed to happen within your people, within the collective body. It's not supposed to happen on the outside. It's supposed to happen within. It's supposed to happen within. You understand that? It's supposed to happen within. Real change is supposed to happen on the inside, not on the outside. You can't expect politicians, you can't expect governments, principalities, and people to all of a sudden change their mind about you. You can't expect that. Nor should you care if that happens. You shouldn't even care. That should not decide whether you're going to change your life. That shouldn't decide that. You should decide that. Because everything starts to change around you once you start to change. And I'm going to say this. The more and more of our people collectively get together and decide we don't have enough and that we want things to change and that we're willing to work collectively together to make things change. And I'm not talking about going to white people and being on this deal white people nonsense or no. I'm talking about the collective body of people coming together under one mind, one body, one soul, one name, one direction, one everything. Want that to change, then you're going to see the power of change. You will even start to change the other people on this planet. They're going to start to look at you different. Why? Because, again, we represent the natural element, meaning our people are the natural race of beings here on earth. And we affect all things, even the artificial ones. So when you see these so-called white people and all these other races acting out of acting out of character toward our people, being disrespectful, being racist. That is the reflection of black people's degenerate minds. That is the reflection. In other words, when you see everybody treating us disrespectfully, that's because black people treat each other disrespectfully. We are the reflection of our own treatment. You understand? We are the bad treatment starts with us and trickles down to everybody else to treat us the same way. We cast off that light of bad and degenerate ways toward other people who then turn around and treat us that way. You understand? All that, in other words, everything, even from what the white man do, the police brutality, all this stuff, that starts with us. That ain't starting with the white man, because he's not. If he ain't the originator, if you so quick to say the so-called white man is not the originator of anything, if that's true, then that means he can't be the originator of racism and bad treatment. That racism, that bad treatment, and all this other stuff got to start with you. Starts with you, and he picks it up, and he's only doing what he's seen you do to each other. He's only doing what he's seen you do to each other. You understand? This is nothing but a reflection of how we see ourselves. The disrespect other races cast on us comes from us. The disrespect that we cast out toward each other is then cast on to the white man and all these other nations, and they bring it back to us. You understand that? Want me to prove it to you? When the white man came amongst our people, right? He always comes when there's infighting, when there's tribalism, right? He always comes when there's disagreement, when there's turmoil amongst our people. Whenever there's tribalism, things, our people fighting against each other, killing each other, hating on each other. Then comes the white man, and he comes in and he picks up where the others, whatever side they left off at. And that energy's in the air of hate that we put there, and he picks it up and that starts to be the reflection of how we see ourselves, and he joins in on the party. And then eventually he destroys both sides and whatnot, or puts both sides in the power. So, and then he brings order amongst his people. This is why he says he knows the power of division. He knows the power and what can happen when you have division and disagreement. He knows. That's why he said. That's why they fought the Civil War, to stop the South from seceding, to stop the South from seceding from the North. That's why they fought, because they know once the states are divided, that gives perfect opportunity for outsiders to come in, just like the white man did with the so-called Africans, with the Indians. It gives a perfect open door for outsiders to come in and cause chaos and confusion and tear the whole damn thing apart. So again, that is a reflection of how y'all treat each other. That is a reflection. The white man does what he does as a reflection of how y'all do each other. You understand that? It starts with you, and it can stop with you. It starts with you, and it can stop with you. You understand? He knows. He knows. Y'all the ones that don't get it. Y'all the ones that don't get it. Black people don't get it. That's why I did the broadcast about how we got to evolve out of the so-called black race and become a whole nother race. And I'm going to tell you something funny. YouTube took that video down. YouTube took that video down. They didn't want that on YouTube. I'm like, why? How is that any different from anything else I said that they haven't taken down? YouTube took that video down. You know why? Probably because it got flagged by niggas. It got flagged by niggas. Probably some black conscious niggas and whatnot, whoever, some black ass demons who don't want things to change. They probably heard something. I'm pretty sure they heard something that was viable and can actually be a solution to the problems of our people. And next thing you know, them niggas probably, because they not gonna, 9 times out of 10, YouTube is not going to just randomly take your stuff down. Somebody has to complain or try to flag the videos or say something about it. They don't like it. And after a while, they'll try to take the videos down. Probably with the whole Thomas, that demon. You understand? That's the demon in them. Again, the reflection, that reflection is not, that's not coming from the white man. You understand? Because these black-ass demons, they don't want to see nothing change. These black demons don't want to see nothing change. And so, of course, they casting that reflection out to the white man. Why you think every time I'm talking when these niggas always come out of nowhere talking about, yeah, I hear you, brother. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But, you know, if the white man decide he don't want to do nothing. See, no, you don't want me to do nothing, and you're trying to get the white man to go against what I'm doing. They probably ain't nowhere even thinking about me. You trying to get them interested in me by saying stuff like that because you really don't want to see me bring change or to no segment of our people. You don't want to see that. They don't want to see that. So it always starts with some evil Negro, the original devil, some evil-ass Negro. And then it trickles down to the white man, the Asian man, the rest of these demons. Then it trickles down to the rest of them. You understand? Then it trickles down to them. Because they don't want to see things change. They like how things are. They like how it is. They rather our people, the mass majority of our people, suffer and not be nowhere, and they can continue to do what it is they do. Feed on our people, disgrace our people, continue to be degenerates, continue to be demons. Again, this ain't just about black and white. It's about the power of change and the ability to move on from all of that. The ability to move on from all of that, from black and white and all these other things, and go through the change. Because as I said before, a lot of people are adverse to change. They're adverse to it because change means you have to extend your mind. And the mass majority of the people are not able to extend themselves mentally to make room for change. They're not able to extend themselves mentally. You know, they still got a lot of them old demons in them that make them act like racists, that make them care about what other people are doing. You understand? That make them angry for no reason. Because, again, you ain't got to like nobody, but you ain't got to disrespect nobody. You ain't got to hurt nobody. You ain't got to like people. You understand? But you ain't got to hurt nobody or disrespect nobody. You know? As long as nobody ain't hurt or disrespect you, why do you got to hurt or harm anybody? Why? Answer, because, again, a lot of these people want to affect or try to stop people from changing, because 9 times out of 10, when you see these people, you know, who want to harm you or do something to you, they want to harm you or do something to you because they see that you're doing something that is, you know, that is about change or growth in your life. They see that you're doing something that's about change or growth in your life. You know, whether you're making money, whether you are raising people up, whether you're teaching, whether you're doing anything, that angers a lot of people because it's like, what are you doing trying to change? Now, you never see a person being hated for doing nothing. You ain't going to never see that because you got a whole bunch of people that's doing nothing, so you don't stand out as a person of interest. You only stand out as a person of interest to a bunch of haters who don't want to see you try and change things or working to see you change things in your life or the lives of your people. They don't want to see that because it's not in them to change. It's not in them to change, so they don't want to see you bring change. They don't want to see you bring change because it's not in them. They hate you for bringing change. Black, white, Asian, everything in between. Right? Because so many people, as I said before, so many people can feed off of the dysfunction of people who are not able to evolve. That's why I said so many people are able to feed off of the dysfunction of black people, even black people. Even black people. So many of these different races, the whites, the Asians, the whatever, feed off of black people's dysfunction. And even black people feed off of their own dysfunction. A certain segment of black people feed off of the dysfunction and want things to remain that way, so that they can feed off of the dysfunction. You understand that? They want things that, like your bourgeoisie Negroes, right? Now, if things changed overnight and black people came to power, then they wouldn't know how to react because, again, they used to kissing the white man's ass. They used to being bed wenches and Uncle Toms and butlers and whatever else. They used to that. They wouldn't know how to act if all of a sudden black people came to power. Then they got to turn around and be phony and act like, yeah, brother, I'm with you. That's not even who they are. They can't change into that. A coon can't change his stripes. A coon can't change his stripes because his mind's already set to be a coon. A bed wench and all, they can't change their stripes because their mind already set to be that way. You understand? Their minds is already set. They can't change their way of thinking because they already set their minds to. They already said, I'm not trying to change. I like how things are. I'm used to this. I like how these things, I like getting my check from the white man. I like taking orders from the white man. I like them telling me what to do or telling me what I can't do. I like that. You understand? They like that. So again, all you got to do is pay attention. All you got to do is pay attention. Pay attention to these people. You understand? Pay attention to these people. They always show you who they are. You should never have to fight change. You should never have to fight it. You should embrace change. Mentellect was meant to be change, constant and continuous change for our people. Hell, we don't get, Armin, sent me the message not to even refer to our people as black anymore. As we refer to our people as the bright race because brightness represents change. Brightness represents constant change. Why? Because it's dealing with the future. Brightness represents constant change. You understand that? Brightness is constant change, continuous change. So we as solar beings are the open vessels for continuous change. We cannot fall into this black mindset of, things going to be the same the way they is, and, things just going to be the way they is, because you're looking at things around you now. But things wouldn't even be like this now if you decided that you wanted things to change in the next. Things wouldn't be like this now. This got this way because a whole bunch of people decided they didn't want change to happen in the next. That's why. That's why things got like this. They didn't want change to happen in the next. You understand that? They said they satisfied with the way things are. That's what they said. They satisfied with the way things are. Now, I'm not thinking about the next. That's how that works. And that's how things remain the same. That's how things remain the same. And this is how things will continue to be. So you got to get away from these now people. I'm good now. I'm okay now. I'm all right now. No, that's not good enough. Now is not good enough. Now don't give us an open window to the next. We supposed to be done jumped out the window of the now and jumped into the next window of the next phase, or the phase of next. Because next is where the change is. I guarantee you, if all them slaves on the plantation would have thought about how would life be without this living on this plantation? How would life be without this cracker telling us what to do? How would life be with us being free to do what we want to do? How would life be? They try to constantly discourage them from not thinking that way because, see, once your mind thinks about change, once your mind thinks about the power of change, the power of next, nobody can stop you. Nobody can stop you. Once that starts to take hold in your mind, and that's almond taking hold in your mind when you start thinking about the next, you start thinking about the evolution, you start thinking about the change, that's almond taking hold of your life, taking hold of your mind. That's what happens. Once that power takes place in your life, thinking about the change and the collectiveness and the coming together, once that happens, man, can't nobody stop you. Nobody can stop you. So that would have been the white man's nightmare for all them niggas to say, oh, we don't, how would life be without being on this plantation and not having nobody tell us what to do. We don't like this no more. That's why he constantly kept telling them, oh, ain't nothing out there. It's only life on the plantation. Ain't nothing out there, because he know once you start telling people and they start thinking about a life without a different life, a next life with something greater, those people will do anything to get to it. Those people will do anything to get to it. Kill you, kill your family, whatever. They will do anything to get to that next level. They will move your ass out the way. They will move you out the way. And you know why the white man know that? Because that's the mindset he came from England with. That's the mindset he came from Europe with when he saw the Indians. He knew he was coming from a place where he was a vagabond, a bum, a loser. So when he got up out of Europe and he came over here into America, he was like, yo, I could be a master here. I could be a master here amongst these savages, amongst these fighting people, these tribal people. I could be a master here. They stand in the way. These people, these tribal people stand in the way of me changing my life, me building another government, building something being greater, establishing myself as a power structure here. That's like, shit, we want to kill these people and move them out the way. I don't blame them. If you seen something that was within your hole and your grasp to take, and you see a bunch of people who standing in your way, God damn it, you're going to move them out the way. They stand in the way of change for you living better, you going to sit there and let them, and you know that you could just take it from them and whatnot and move them out the way. People who ain't doing nothing with the land, people who ain't doing nothing, all these things, you can see the potential in this, and you're going to stand by and let these people stay there, and when all you got to do is just move these people out the way. That's reality. Change is inevitable. And I said either you're going to be steering the wheel of change, or you're going to be, like I said, manipulated by change, like the Indians was. They was manipulated by the change. The so-called white man put his hands on the steering wheel and made change happen. You understand? By way of almond. All by way of almond. Whether y'all like it or not. I'm going to go ahead and take a call. 347, you're on the air. 347.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Mencarez. How are you?
How you doing, brother?
All right, I didn't want to take up too much of your time. Excellent broadcast this evening. I wanted to piggyback on two points that you had. The one regarding change, like as I went through different studies and investigated, portions of history. Like somebody, for example, like Booker T. Washington. As long as they were waiting for someone else to build them a school, everything was okay. And then Booker T. Washington, he took the horse, by the strings and said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and build my own school. We're going to take whatever scraps that we can get, and we're going to teach our own children what it is that we need to teach them, what he thought was proper at the time. And then you had W.E.B. Du Bois that wanted to buck up against him. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was very interesting. So that's on the point of change. Now, as far as the reflection, when it came to Carter G. Woodson, he put in his book, The Miseducation of the Negro, he explained how, the white, I guess you could say the white power structure would have black foremen that would oversee other black men and women that were working, mainly black men that were working, and it wouldn't be a whole bunch of, production happening, and they would buck up against the foreman, but then the white guy would take the black foreman out, put a white guy in there, and then that white guy would be mistreating them. So that goes on a point of reflection. They only did what they saw you do to the black foreman. So those were the only 2 points I wanted to bring up. I'm going to continue listening, brother.
All right, brother. All right. Thank you for calling me. Right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so, again, you got to understand that this is a mental thing. This is a mental thing. Change is reality. What can be one way 1 second can be something else the next. See, that's why I don't put stock in people telling me how great I am, how much they love me and all that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's cool. You understand? That's cool. That's nice and all that. But the people that embrace me way too much over the top, I gotta I take it with a grain of salt because I don't have people do that 1 minute, next minute they turn on me in the next minute. They turn right on me in the next minute. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, So again, you gotta, you gotta think about that. You take it, I take everything with a grain of salt. I take it all in, and I accept it, and I'm like, okay. But again, at the end of the day, I always pay attention to certain things, right? Sincerity comes and respect comes over time. See, people who do not embrace change are the people who are not patient for it, nor are they the people that are able to see it. They're not either patient for the change or they don't want to see it. Like I said, they got vested interest in things staying the same. They got vested interest in that. Right? They got vested interest. You got black people who in the hood if you come through and try to clean up the hood and stop the drug dealing, you got black people that will get pissed off. They be like, nigga, what you trying to do? Don't come in here trying to bring that positive stuff. They be like, don't come in here trying to bring that positive stuff. You get killed over here. It was some gangbanger dude. I think I remember a gangbanger dude was saying when he stopped gangbanging and stuff like that, he talking about how he wanted to have some positive things going on in the neighborhood and clean up the neighborhood, right? He wanted to have positive things. He wanted to stop the drug dealing. And his own people who he helped form the gang, they was like, don't come over here with that positive stuff. You get killed over here. You understand? This is black people telling them that. This is black people, since y'all want to say, oh, it's the white man all the time, and, the white man is the devil, and he don't want to see things change. Now, this was black people telling, you better not come over here with that positive stuff, nigga. You get yourself killed out here. But, of course, you had black, oh, well, they don't know they out there, they not in their right state. Yeah, they not in their right state of mind. But that makes them even more dangerous and adverse to change when they're not in their right state of mind. You understand? Or they are in their right state of mind. They just mentally they got too many mental demons in them. Where they are in their right state of mind. Cause stop thinking that every so-called black person is good. Stop thinking that way. Or that every so-called white person is bad. And again, it's not even about good and bad. It's about people moving out of your way so that you can make change. It's about people moving out of your way for you to make change. And I've said this before and I say it again. Black people will sabotage their own evolution. They will sabotage their own change. They will sabotage their own evolution and their own change as well. So stop thinking it's just white people doing that. You understand? They will do it as well. They will sabotage their own evolution. And their own people's, they will get in the way of their own people's evolution. You understand that? They will sabotage it themselves. Never think that they won't. When people tell me about Black Wall Street, right? And I'm going to bring this out again about the Black Wall Street thing. Oh, when we tried to set up our own businesses and things like this, the white man came in and tore them down. Yeah, sure he did. But, I always say this is black people's fault for what happened at Black Wall Street. Why do I say that? I say that because black people go into a situation trusting their enemies. You trust your enemies. If you go into a jungle around a bunch of animals and you try to set up camp around a bunch of animals, do you really think over time those animals are not going to be watching you and eventually going to attack you? Because they have the nature of animals. They're not going to let you come around them and live and prosper. You ain't gonna go in the jungle and live and prosper and set nothing up amongst animals. The animals are gonna attack you. Why? Because the animals are territorial. That's the same way those people were. They were animals on two legs. But because black people didn't know how to evolve and to change, and they changed their way of thinking when it came to these types of people, because they didn't know how to evolve their way of understanding. They were around a bunch of animals. They didn't know how to change their way of thinking. Now, am I saying all white people act like animals? No. But they got the potential, just like all humans. All so-called human beings got the potential to act like animals. And especially when they're driven off of emotion and jealousy, they all got the potential. They all got the potential over time to act like animals, and black people didn't realize that. You understand? They didn't realize that. They didn't realize that all of these people over time got the potential to act like animals. And when you don't understand that, especially after coming from where you came from, being around these people, what black people do, they was trusting. They still trusted these people. They trusted them. They didn't realize they were around a bunch of animals. They forgot. They didn't want to change their minds. But your minds will be changed for you. I'm going to go ahead and take a call. 347.
Hey, how you doing, brother? What's going on? This the last point that I wanted to make, to piggyback on what you was just saying. I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, I was having a conversation. It was maybe 5 or 6 brothers and like 2 sisters, and we were speaking about something similar to the subject that you're talking about. I think it was regarding schools or bettering the neighborhood. And I remember, asking the brother, I said, yo, if, you being from, he was from Tompkins. I said, you being from Tompkins. And I asked him, do you have children? He's like, yeah. I said, oh, okay, cool. So if you had a babysitter that lived in Marcy, and you know that those 2 projects have beef, yep, the project you from and Marcy, I said, would you be taking your child over to Marcy Projects knowing that these 2 projects have beef? He was like, hell no. Like, well, that would be foolish. I said, so then why are you so comfortable with leaving your children or subjecting your children to substandard education in the public school system? And I couldn't get an answer. I couldn't get an answer. He just had the blank look on his face. I was like, yo, I need you to commit to an answer. Mm-hmm. He was like, yo, I don't know. He was like, yo, it's a good question. What are your thoughts on that, brother? The answer to that is that he don't really see. He trusts in the white man and these other races. That's really what it is. He trusts other people to educate his children. He trusts in them more than he trusts in himself. You understand? He'll let other people take an active, or what he believes is an active concern in raising and educating his children, because when you allow somebody to educate your children, you're basically allowing them to raise your children. They are co-parenting your children. So you allowing a system, an educational system with a curriculum that you don't know who the hell made this curriculum up. You're basically allowing them to raise your children with you. They're being allowed to raise your children. They're co-parenting with you, and even more so now. So a lot of times when you see black people who are not going to take the initiative to set up their own school system to educate their children, whether you homeschool them, whether you're going to build it into something else, they're basically saying that they don't think that they are capable enough to come up with curriculums on their own for their children or to educate their children. That's basically what they're saying. Now, I understand a lot of times they don't have time or whatever the case may be, whatever. But that's basically what they're saying. Even with the time thing, or even have, I comprehend. I fully comprehend. But even with that, like just sitting back observing I see Dr. Umar Johnson. He's doing his thing with the whole school thing. Whatever it is, that's his business. But I sit time after time, and I'm like, okay, black people, you have these barbershops, you have community centers. You're always throwing parties in there. And I said to myself, there's, so-called black teachers out here that would be willing to come into these community centers. So I'm like, if you have the community center, why don't you teach your children what it is that need to be taught to them instead of having baby showers, somebody come out of prison, you throw a party, somebody got a flat, you throw a party. It's like there's always a reason to throw a party in a community center, but you're not a community. So what are you partying for is the question.
Yeah, well, because they children. And then they got the mind, black people got the mindset of children. Black people don't want to grow up. Again, growing up represents change. You understand?
Okay.
That's why black people don't want to grow up. Black people don't want to be responsible. So they don't. That represents change. That's why they always going to be looking to the white man to do for them, because they got the mindset of children. They got the mindset of children. And when you got the mindset of a child, you're going to basically do these things, you're going to act like children.
Okay.
You're going to act like children.
Well, one last example. I was at a community center earlier today. They was doing something for the children. I mean, not today, but earlier in the week, last week. And there was maybe about 12 children there. And I asked them all what they wanted to do. It was basketball, football, but 2 out of approximately about 12. One said attorney, he wanted to be a lawyer. The other one said engineer.
Wow.
So I focused in on those 2 children and just explaining to them, what it takes, to prosper in those fields. And the ones that was talking about basketball, football, I asked them, I was like, yo, do you know the dimensions of a football? Do you know the dimensions of a basketball? Do you know why they have the lines and the slits and the sizes that they are? I'm like, at least if you're going to do it, at least be a master at it. And one of the kids said, oh, well, the basketball players get so much respect and they get paid so much. I was like, okay. I said, so what do you think the owners do?
Yeah, what he said.
The child just had a blank face. So the parent was sitting in the back, and it was like, oh, ask me, basically. Ask me. That's my son. Why don't you ask me? I said, well, why are you allowing your child to sell itself short? Matter of fact, why are you selling them short? So now all the other parents is looking at her like, answer the question. And she didn't have an answer. I said, yeah, it figures. I see where you got it from.
Okay, well, there you go.
All right, I'm off your broadcast, bro.
All right, brother. Thank you for calling in.
Well, I'm gonna continue listening. I'm gonna continue listening.
All right, brother. Thank you. Yeah. So again, I always tell my people to embrace change. Right? Do not be like black people. Do not be like black people who refuse to embrace change. Right? Do not be like black people who refuse to embrace change, because change is inevitable. Right? You hold on to things too long, and then they get old, and then they start to spoil on you, and eventually they fall away. Right? Things you should have threw away a long time ago. Problem with our people is they don't know what to throw away and what to keep, what to change in their lives, and what to, guide in the evolution. Because again, anybody that comes into your life that is not proactive in changing your life, right, or changing their lives, if you can't see a change or be inspired, because a great person, a wonderful person, told me that, people are inspired, people get more out of inspiration to change than people trying to, how'd she put it, affect or to influence people. You get more out of trying to inspire people than trying to influence them, right? And I'm more, I'm always wanted to be the one to inspire people to change. I never wanted to influence people, because those people who influence can be influenced in one way, can be influenced in another, right? Right. Those people that can, be influenced one minute can be influenced in another direction. So again, inspiration is key. Inspiration is key. I wanted to inspire people all the time through what I'm doing, and letting people know that change is inevitable. Change is inevitable, and we can change if we choose to change collectively as a people. We can change things for ourselves. It don't take a lot of people. It don't take a lot of people. Only a few people. Because again, when you get all these people on board who want to change, who want to evolve, who want things to change for the better, when you get all these people on board who want this, then again, a nation of millions can't hold them people back. You can't get nobody. Those people can't be held back when they truly want change. So again, like when I pointed out the thing with the Million Man March, if nothing came out of that, when all them people went home and them people got together and nothing happened, then that just goes to show you that was 1 million plus people who didn't want to see nothing really change. That was 1 million plus people that did not want to see anything change. Right? Because again, when you got people who want to remain as children, who want to stay as children, who want to stay in a state of being irresponsible and stay in the mindset of being blameless, right? When they don't want to be responsible, when they don't want to be held accountable for things, again, that's the people who avoid change. They avoid change because, again, like I told you before, if black people came to power in the society, if things changed overnight, you would see a lot of people try to work against it. They wouldn't know how to function. More black people wouldn't be able to function in a society that changed with them in the power seat versus those who are beneath the power seat. You see more people would not know how to function. They wouldn't know how. You have to embrace the change of maturity. Maturity represents change. The things that you liked in the past, the things that you once embraced, you're not going to always embrace in the future. You're going to embrace new things or next level things. You're going to embrace those. You're going to embrace next level things. People should always be saying to you as you're walking through life, people should always say to you, damn, you used to be this way, or you used to be that way, or I remember you used to do this, you used to do that, now you don't do this no more, and I see you doing that, I see you doing more, I see you doing this. Somebody should always be commenting on what you're doing, the more that you're doing. Somebody should always be commenting on what you're doing, the more things that you're doing. They should be always in awe of what you're doing because, again, so many people are sitting around doing nothing. Somebody should always be commenting, being like, damn, you doing this, you working on that, you making this, you doing what? You doing this. They're supposed to be blown away by that, by just the things that you're doing. They should be blown away by that. You understand that? They should be always, you every time I turn around, you doing this, you doing that, you over here, you doing this, you bettering yourself, you doing that, you making changes over here, you making moves, you don't never sit still, you always doing this. That's how they supposed to see you, man. You always supposed to be change in motion. You're always supposed to be a change in motion. When people see you, they're always supposed to see you in motion. You always supposed to be moving. Even when you sitting still, you're supposed to appear as though you moving to them. You understand? Even when you sitting still, you're supposed to always appear as though you moving because you move so much. They supposed to be thinking, damn. You understand? Damn, you always over here. You never sit in one place. It's hard to pin you down. You ain't never sitting around talking about you always doing something. That should always be people's mentality when they come in contact with you. You should always be a progress in the making, a progress in motion. You should always be a progress in change. You should always be evolving, always be growing, and not afraid to step out and onto another path. Not be afraid of that. I always wanted mentally to inspire those who became part of this community to think that way. Because those are the people I want really walking with me, the people who embrace change, the people who know that change is possible as a collective, the people who are here to embrace change. I don't want the same old black people, yeah, I hear you, but, yeah, I hear you, Amir Nubin. Yeah, I hear you, Mentor. I hear you, yeah, but the reality of it is, no, nigga, the reality of it is you don't want things to change. That's the reality. If that's how you feel, get your ass up out of here. Get up out of here. Don't come bringing your Debbie Downer mentality over here. Your Debbie Downer, I want things that stay the same. Yeah, I hear you, brother, but the reality is what we say it is. The reality is what we say it is. And it will be that over time if we work together and we want things to change. That's the reality. Not you telling us that we can't do this and we can't do that, and change is happening all around us, and you sitting up here worrying about white people or Arab people, or whoever the hell you worrying about. Whoever you worrying about, whoever you trying to throw in our path to stop change from taking place. Whoever it is that you trying to throw in our path, we don't want to hear it. And if I see those kind of people, I want them away from me. I want them to get away from me ASAP. ASAP. I don't need no Doubting Thomases around me. I don't need no, well, we can't do it. We can do whatever we want to do. We can do whatever we want to do if it is going to evolve and raise us mentally. And as long as we ain't hurting nobody, as long as you ain't intruding on anybody else's space or trying to harm anybody, you can do whatever you want to do in the world. You do whatever you want to do. You can be whatever you want to be in the world, as long as you're not intruding on anybody's space or trying to harm anybody physically and whatnot. You can do whatever you want to do. When we come to the conclusion that we affect change in our lives, and the faster we come to this mindset amongst people who want the same thing, the faster we will get away from people who do not want the same thing. When we come to the conclusion that we can affect change, right? We come to the conclusion that we ultimately will affect greater change in all people around us. All people around us are nothing but objects to be manipulated. But we got it backwards by thinking that everybody around us is supposed to manipulate us. We got it confused. We got it twisted. We, as those natural beings, aka supernatural beings, those of us, we have the power to manipulate things around us. We have the power to manipulate all things around us, for us and by us. Right? Again, I've seen that, but that has to come with the reality of change, the acknowledgement of change. That has to come with that in mind. That has to come with a greater understanding of that in mind before change can occur. We have to always make ourselves the open vessels of change. We have to always make ourselves that. We have to always make ourselves the open vessels of change, continuously and constantly. All right? If we are not going to make ourselves the open vessel of change, if we're not going to allow Amen to change us, to meet the future us, to extend us, then again, what are you living for? What are you living for? What is your point? What is your purpose for being here? If you are not going to allow Amen to change things in your life. You must allow Amen to change things in your life by extending your life. Extending your life beyond existence. Extending your life beyond existence. Right? You must allow Amen to extend your life beyond existence. You must continue to extend your life beyond existence, meaning that you have to constantly move beyond those who are just existing, to move beyond those who are existing in life. Right? You have to move beyond those average people who have accepted their lot in life and who are not trying to change in life. You have to move beyond them, extend your life past or beyond existence. Right? That's what that means. So many people out here just existing, right? Waiting for things to change around them and not being proactive in the change. So many people are doing that. So many people are just existing and not changing. They're getting old. They're not maturing, they're getting old. See, the people who mature over time, they have changed over time. They have evolved over time. The people who get old over time, those are the people who have not changed. They let things around them change them. They let circumstances change them, situations, people, surroundings, environment. They let these things change them. They let these things change them. They let these things change them. You can't allow outside things to change you. You must allow yourself to change on the inside. You can use outside things as objects of change, but that can't be what drives you. It has to be the extension in you and the desire to want change that changes you, not outside influences. Outside influences can spark the change, but change is not going to happen until you decide that you want things to change, until you decide that you want to extend yourself and evolve to another level. And the fact that you can even do that, the fact that you can even think on that level, says that there's a possibility of change. Because you got certain people who don't even think on that level. They don't even think that their life is supposed to be different. Right? They don't even think like that. You got people who are going to, like I said, you might move out of a place that, you grew up in the projects and stuff like that, and you might move out of this place 20, 25, 30 years, might have moved out of there 25, 30 years ago, and then next thing you know, you go back, you see those same people that were still there 25, 30 years ago. Still sitting on the bench, still doing nothing with their lives, still doing the same thing. Like nothing changed. Like nothing changed. I know these guys, I swear these guys are like in a goddamn time warp. These guys, I knew these guys when they was in their early teens, 18, 19 years old. These guys are in their 40s now, and these guys still dress the same. They still smoke weed. They still getting high. They looking old and terrible, but they still look the same, though. They in their 40s, and they still look the same, and they feel like they still look like, and not in a good youthful way. They look, they still look the same as in, they've aged, they gotten older, but they have not matured. They have not changed. You understand? They have not matured. They have not changed. So again, don't ever fall into this trap. Don't fall into this trap. Don't you fall into this trap. You know? Change is inevitable. Change is inevitable. You be the one to guide everybody or steer yourself toward change. You have to be the one to do that. You have to be the one to do that. You have to be the one to steer everything, steer yourself toward change. And I guarantee you, those people who are looking at you strange, they're going to then start to see you as an inspiration because you took the initiative to change your life. You took the initiative. You took the initiative to change your life. You did something that they were not brave enough to do. You took the initiative and did something that they were not man enough or woman enough to do. You understand that? And a lot of times people are envious because of that, because you did something that they were not man enough or woman enough to do. They were envious of you because you took the step toward change. Change was always open to you. Change, the door of change is always open to you when you're ready to walk through it. It always presents the door to change, and a lot of people are too cowardly to walk through it because they don't know what's on the other side. They scared of what's on the other side. You know, I became a totally different person. I took on another name, took on this mission. Right, something I felt I was born to do, but I came from a totally different life before this. And I told you all what my life was. And I had no problem embracing the change of life. I had no problem walking out of one door and walking into the next. And I don't look back. I don't look back because by looking back, it makes me weaker, meaning back into that world. I can reminisce about that world, but I don't look back, nor do I want to change, how far I've done come. I want to continue to do better. I want to continue to change. I want to continue to grow. I want to continue to evolve. That should always be your mindset. That should be everybody's mindset. You know. That should always be everybody's mindset. I want to change for the greater. I want to change for the greater. I want to change for the greater. That should always be your mindset. And I'm not just talking about money, because money don't change you. You got a lot of people that fall into money. They come into windfalls. They hit lotteries and stuff like that. Whatever. They fall into money and they end up pissing it all down the drain. They end up doing nothing with the money. They end up, not accomplishing anything. So money don't change things. It only helps to magnify the stagnant mind frame that you have. It helps to magnify it. It helps to magnify the stagnant mindset that you have. If you have a stagnant mindset and you are not open to change, then again, what ends up happening? What ends up happening? Nothing ends up happening for you. Nothing ends up happening for you. That's what happens. Nothing ends up happening for you when you keep that mindset, when you are not able to evolve, when you are not able to change. Nothing happens for you. Nothing will ever happen for you. And again, you miss out on so much because, again, once the door is open to you, it will only remain open for a certain amount of time. And that time is based on the extension of your mind, how far you're willing to extend yourself. Because as you're getting older, or you're becoming more mature, or in your cases, you might be getting older, you start to say to yourself, you start to close windows in your life. You start saying, well, I would have did this 20 years ago, or I would have did this 30 years ago, but I ain't going to do this now. Oh, yeah? Why not? Why do you start immediately closing doors? You start to close doors because you start to close off all your options for change, and you basically become just like the people who are around you, who have become complacent in the evolution of themselves. They've become complacent. And once you become complacent, once you sit up and you, like I said, you basically then decided nothing's going to happen for me, nothing's going to change, I'm going to be the same person I'm going to be, then like I said, you already started the slow path toward death. Because again, the only thing that does not change is dead people. They're going to remain there. But even then, some of them, they dead people, they decompose. So again, really, that's a change within itself. Some of them decompose, break down over time. So again, change is inevitable. Change is inevitable. So we're going to read these questions before we go. What is the power of change? The power of change is your ability to evolve and to grow into something greater, with the open door to who you are, the extension of who you are. It's always open, and it only closes when you decide to close it. When you decide to say, oh, I won't do that, I ain't doing that no more, I ain't trying to do this no more. Once you start deciding that, then you closing the door on yourself. Can people really change things? Yeah, they can. As a collective, you can, because it don't take a lot of people to change things around, all around them. It only takes a chosen few. A good example, look at Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam. Like I said, they ain't had that many people with them, as compared to the millions of black people and whites around there. Elijah Muhammad, at his height, might have had maybe 100,000 people. But the impression they made as clean-cut Muslims around the world, Nation of Islam, it had an impression, and it garnered a lot of respect from people in the so-called black community in the hoods of North America and people around the world. So just off of that alone, this man, Elijah Muhammad, was able to take this nation and convert it into something greater and something that people was looking at. He was able to do that. He was able to influence a lot of people just by what he did with those little 75 to 80,000 people, 100,000, whoever knows. But he was able to do that. You understand? So people really do change things. Do things really have to be the way they are? No, they don't. They don't. Things are only the way they are because people choose to let them be the way they are. That's why things are the way they are. Just because, again, like I said, those people who are pushing white supremacy or talking white supremacy or white superiority, those are the same black people that are carrying black inferiority, because white superiority has to rest on the foundation of black inferiority. In other words, black people have to think low of themselves in order for these people to stand on a higher pedestal and level. You have to bow down to them. You have to think on a lower level. And a lot of the so-called black people have chosen to bow down. Do black people really want things to change? No, they don't. Nope. As a collective, no, they don't. That's why I don't listen to black people. They tell me, yeah, brother, I'm with you, and no, you're not with me, because I'm about change. You're not about change. If you was about change, you'd be in the Republic of Mentellect. The Republic of Mentellect is all about change for the betterment of our people. Those people who are not with that, then again, I'm not with you, and you're definitely not with me. All right? So things don't have to be the way they are. Who dictates change? Amen dictates change. The Most High, the Creator, the Lord. And you have to be open for that change. Once you decide that you're going to embark on it, you have to open up to Amen, the Most High, the Creator, and extend yourself by way of Amen's instruction and direction, which is only coming through the Republic of Mentellect. That's it. This is the community of change. This represents the community of change in this day and time. And that's it. So we've come to the end of our broadcast. I want to thank you all for listening. We're going to close this out in the name of Amen, by the power of Amen. And Amen we trust, and Amen we thank, and in Amen we continue forward forever. We'll be back Wednesday night, and, I'll be in Atlanta. I'm going to be doing, on Wednesday, I'm going to be on a broadcast totally dedicated to the Atlanta conference, what to expect out there. I'm not going to go into detail. Those of you in the Atlanta and the South Carolina areas, I want you to come out to the Grand Hyatt the Grand Hyatt Hotel, Buckhead at 3300 Peachtree Boulevard. I'm going to be there Sunday, August 12th. Come out. I'm going to be speaking, running my mouth. This conference is free. Come on out. Come out and be our guest. Hear me talk and, ask me questions and whatnot. I'll be there live and in flesh. And that's it. I am the intellectual Nuben Menkares. This has been Mentellect Radio. What I want to close with? I want to close with something nice. Nice and short and sweet and to the point. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Black race to the bright race, out the black race to the bright race. The students public of Mentellect. Black race to the bright race. If it's hell, and then it's hell us. They tried everything just to spell us. Fed us religion, gave us fake gods. Through all of that, we beat the odds. Now we coming together under one flag. Colors red, gold, and blue. Superman, Superwoman, that's me and you. The infinite capabilities that we can do. We the Republic.